Number 10, what size generator do you need? The entire baseline of how generators are categorized is off of the output wattage. So the better question is, what do you want to power up? Watts, 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 watts. So before we go adding everything up, we actually need to figure out what all of these numbers mean. The bigger advertised number is always going to be the starting watts, and then the smaller number will be your running watts. And since this one's a dual fuel, the 2 in green, that's the wattage you get out of propane. Some appliances and tools, anything you really with a motor or compressor, kind of like AC units, they require a higher initial wattage when it's starting, and the starting wattage, than just a normal other appliance. So check out when I start up this AC unit, you can see the wattage jumps up to about 2,500, and then just seconds after, it settles down about 1,100. But you do not want to size your engine off of that, go off of the running watts. Now, of course, the question is going to come up, hey, how do you even know how much wattage an appliance pulls? Every appliance out there has a nameplate, and it has everything you need on there. Sometimes it will even give you the wattage, so you add this 800 watt toaster, we've got an 1100 watt microwave, you add those together, you're set. Or you could get a cool kilowatt device, you pretty much plug your appliance into that, then into the receptacle, and it tells you everything you need to know. Amps, voltage, wattage, I don't know what else. Hertz and hours. Number 9, traditional or inverter? Well, that depends. Traditional generators have an engine, it turns an alternator, outputs AC power. Inverters actually add a step. It takes that engine power, converts it to DC power, then flips it or inverts it back to AC. And you might be wondering, if it's an added step, why is that better and more efficient? Well, that's the beauty of electronics, and so we actually need to dive into the 60 hertz sine wave. With a traditional generator, it's actually kind of a choppy, almost looks like a bar graph, versus the inverter, it is a nice, smooth sine wave. So, bottom line, electronic, heavy type appliances or, devices care about that. They're really picky about their power. So if you're doing a laptop, TVs, computers, that type of stuff, use an inverter. If it's a big heavy tool machinery, that type of stuff, it doesn't really care as much. Another thing that plays into it is, yes, these are the quieter, smaller little compact packages, and they are more efficient. Take a look, this is a 4000, this is a 4200. Check out the size difference. And with those added benefits, well, you're paying for it. So this one, it depends. How about a dual fuel? I guarantee you've all had a gummed up carburetor because you left the ethanol gas in it over the winter. So there are things to mitigate that, but sometimes propane is just so nice and convenient. And with it never expiring, it's honestly my choice and would suggest, if you're on the line whether you should spend the little extra to get a dual fuel, do it. Now, just shortly, I'll mention they do have natural gas type generators, but I mean, that's kind of more of a stationary, along with your diesel generators. I mean, those you're getting into the heavy industrial type, or the ones, the bigger ones that you're going to be powering a lot more stuff than even just your house. Parallel kits. I love it. Instead of buying one giant generator, you can actually get 2 and a parallel kit, and that allows you to hook them both up, and in a sense, you're doubling your power. I went with the parallel kit because like 92.314% of the time, I only need a small amount of power. So a lot easier to throw one of these in the back of the truck or RV than say an 8500 watt generator. Just remember to look up if the generator can run in parallel, and there's a ton of backyard YouTube videos out there showing even doing different size generators. I haven't tested that out. You're on your own. Number 6, maintenance. Your generator needs maintenance more than you think. Most manufacturers suggest to do the first oil change after about 20 to 30 hours, and then keep up on it and do it about 50 to 100. I typically do it at a 50 just to make sure it's always running smooth. Don't forget the spark plug and air filter. It's got a full section on maintenance. I don't know where page this is. Operation. Maintenance. Number 5, the deadly killer. Warning, warning, caution, danger, warning. Warning, 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 warning. They're everywhere. I shouldn't have to say this, but don't run your generator inside your house, inside your garage or RV, any enclosed space. People still die of it every year. Carbon monoxide poisoning, CO. Yes, it's that odorless, colorless gas that will kill you. Now, even though my last couple generators have had CO sensors, meaning it will cut the generator out if it senses any carbon monoxide, I don't want to test it out. So don't die. Number 4 is by far the one that everyone skips the most. Simply running your generator every month. We love a mechanical engine that loves moving, not just being stagnant. The generators with the mysterious won't start effect, well, guarantee you left it sitting too long and the fuel separated and you gummed up your carburetor. Just like in life, this does not work. Out on your electrical panel, you get the power coming in that goes to your bus bar, and then that gets distributed to all of your little circuits out throughout your house. It's all connected. So if the power goes out, you can get one cord with 2 plugs, stick one into the generator and just one into the outlet. They're all connected and you can backfeed your entire house. And there's so many issues with that. When the power comes on, you can start fires, electrocute the linemen, not to mention it's illegal. So if you do want to power your house, make sure you get with an electrician, get a transfer switch, an interlock kit, and what that does is it protects you. It makes you shut off the breaker to your house before you start feeding it. Number 2, altitude and heat. For all of you sea level folks, well, skip this one. Engines lose roughly 3% of their power for every 1,000 feet above sea level. I know all of these generators were rated and tested at sea level. I'm at about 4,200 feet, so I've already got about a 12% power loss. When I go up to the campsite at 8,000, definitely noticeable difference. Plan that in for when you are sizing for the running watts. Number 1 is it's only going to take one storm for you to go out to your generator and it not work for you to learn your lesson. Have extension cords, oil, air filter, spark plugs. Make sure that you have everything and have tested it out monthly before that storm hits, or even if you're up in the mountains. Bonus tip, read your manual. I guarantee you there's something in here you didn't know. I mean, they've even got a full wattage calculator table going.